and welcome into another podcast episode for CoatingsPro magazine. I'm Stephanie Chiswick, and I'm editor-in-chief of CoatingsPro. Today we have with us Brandon Eckenrode, Director of Development for Collision Repair Education. Their mission is to support collision repair educational programs, schools, and students to create qualified entry-level employees and connect them with an array of career opportunities. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So why don't we start by you giving our listeners a bit of your background?
Absolutely. So I actually went to school for a English and journalism degree. And upon graduation, obviously the natural fit is the automotive industry when you have a journalism and English degree, where I actually started off with a company called iCar, which produces training for the collision industry. And that industry includes all the companies that are involved with repairing our vehicles after an accident. So it's body shops, paint companies, tool companies, all those companies that are involved within that industry, and was in their marketing department for roughly about 8 years. And it was then when I actually joined with the Collision Repair Education Foundation after I found I have a level of comfort in asking people for support of a charitable cause. And the foundation was transforming into that charitable entity that it is now. So it seemed like a natural fit, and to get paid to be doing something that you love to do and are comfortable doing, it seemed like a great fit.
Yeah, and I bet you those are very specific skills for the role that you have now, and probably well-serving for you. Yeah.
Yes, especially this past year. As you can imagine, that was quite the interesting year to be a fundraiser because of everything that was going on and people being, closely watching their budgets. And it's actually no different than 2009 when I started with the foundation because of the economic situation that was going on back then. So it just means you have to get creative, and that's something that I always welcome.
Can you maybe then give us like a little bit of a background as far as what your current role there is with Collision Repair Foundation?
Sure. So because we are a large staff of 4 trying to solve the national issue of the need for entry-level staff within the automotive industry, no different than a lot of the other technical trades, but my official title is Director of Development. But I am the organization's main industry liaison. So I'm out at industry conferences, events, and meetings trying to help get more companies involved in the work that we're doing. But I also help facilitate any social media, marketing communications, PR, things like that. So again, with it being a small staff, we wear multiple hats, but we've been able to do some incredible things through a very generous industry.
Yeah, I can't even remember how we met at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was social media because, that's definitely an area that's grown in a positive way, I think, especially in the past year. So it's been able to kind of keep us all connected.
Absolutely.
I think that some of our listeners would be probably really interested in knowing how your world and our world connects. So maybe give a little bit of, why does this pertain to the coatings world? There's a very certain angle to it. I think that's really interesting, and that it would be great for us to know about.
Sure. So a little bit more background on the foundation, which I think will tie into what you mentioned, is that we're a national 501c3 charity. So our main role is to support high school and college auto body repair or collision repair school programs, students, and instructors around the country. So this is everything from a local high school, technical school, and they're under our umbrella of support. So the 3 areas that we focus on are trying to get students attracted to this industry and to these local school programs, supporting the programs themselves with donations, and then also the employment side of getting these students into the industry. So on the attraction piece, we've been doing this for several years, but obviously looking to kind of expand our partnerships and collaborations. But one of the things that we're trying to do is help these instructors who are facing pretty limiting program budgets, who they barely have enough budgets to be able to provide the tools, the equipment, the supplies they need to run their programs. But we want to make sure that these programs have a professional learning environment. So that means, students having uniforms and these programs not looking like the sometimes dungeon type of atmosphere they sometimes have, because these instructors are stretched so thin with their budgets that they can't afford to be worried about how their program looks. They're just trying to keep the programs operating. So what we're trying to do, and have had some success, is things like making sure these programs have brand new coated floors, as opposed to the floors that they've had since the program opened many, many years ago. Fresh coat of paint on the walls, things like that. So where we can kind of build partnerships with companies to make sure these local schools, and again, there's roughly about 1,000 different of these programs around the country. So trying to help make sure these programs look like professional learning environments, we're hoping that they will help attract the best types of students, as these are the professionals that are going to be working on your, mine, and everybody's cars after an accident. We want to make sure that they're repairing these cars correctly because they're skilled in the way that they should be, as opposed to practicing on our cars and then we're getting in them and driving them on the roads. So that coatings and helping with that a professional appearance of these programs is, I think, obviously the main purpose of us talking, and hopefully we can get more people involved.
Yeah, and I think that that's obviously great in and of itself, but you could also add a layer of safety to it, right? So I'm sure that a properly coated floor is also a safer floor. You know, the concrete itself is not different levels, or the acids and what have you you're dropping on it potentially could keep it cleaner and safer, and those kinds of things. And then the PPE portion as well. I know that's a part of what you've discussed too, of that you're looking for those donations as well. Do you see that the safety aspect is part of it too?
Absolutely. And if we can instill those habits of making sure that the students stay safe when they're in that educational time in their career, hopefully that stays with them when they go out into the industry. And whether they go work inside a body shop, a dealership, or any other of the different industry segments and career paths that are available in the industry, to your point, that's kind of emphasis on that safety at that while they're in school is obviously always key.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that you point on that I want to make sure that we highlight too is probably just like the coatings contractors world, you know, there's a labor shortage. So I'm sure that you're having similar struggles in that area as well. And if this could potentially attract people to that area, that could be a great benefit from it.
Absolutely. So the average age within our industry, which, like you said, is probably no different than the other industries, is getting closer and closer to 50 years old. So you have multi-million and billion-dollar companies who are in absolute panic mode because their workforce is getting older. They need, properly trained entry-level staff to come in. So if we can help put the technical trades and specifically the collision industry for our focus in a better and more positive light, hopefully that will help change the mindset of the parents, the administration, the guidance counselors. You know, some people that see it more as a dumping ground because they've been pushed the traditional four-year college route. College isn't for everybody. I obviously, like I mentioned, as a product of that, but you can make an absolute incredible career within this industry, like many of the other technical trades. So if by making these programs look more professional, then if that helps attract more students, that's obviously a win for everybody.
Yeah, one of the things that we say in the coatings world, at least I've been saying this a lot, or hearing this a lot lately, is although there are some people certainly who want to go into that industry from the get-go, similar probably to auto repair, a lot of people come in it from different angles. So, you know, if there are people who that they don't know that that's their path, but they kind of find their way into it, then wouldn't it be great to be able to show them this professional side of it? That would be great.
Exactly. And there's lots of career paths that people aren't necessarily aware of. But again, I've been in the industry for nearly 20 years, and believe me, you don't want me touching someone's car, but I am still part of the industry, and there's still paths and career opportunities, as opposed to, or I should say, in addition to the hands-on repairs that would be happening with some of those students who are going down that path.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I think we have a lot in common. I imagine I know now a lot about concrete, but I should not be coating
exactly.
it. Shouldn't be prepping it, shouldn't be coating it. Yeah. I at least know not to call it cement.
Okay.
So how can the people in the coatings industry, whether that's the contractors, the manufacturers, the people who's supply the safety materials, or just the distributors, it's a great big world. How can we get the world out to them? What can they do to help? What can we do to help encourage people to participate with you guys?
So because we support, again, any high school or college, technical college, community college that has a collision program, there isn't a market around the country that probably doesn't have a school that can be supported in this type of effort with their flooring and looking professional. So by reaching out to us, what we can do is finding out where those companies or contacts have, where their markets are at. we can help identify schools and kind of explore that opportunity to see what type of situation the school is in, how the school can get involved, because some schools have the budget to be able to help when it comes to possibly prepping the floor, or they might not have the that opportunity. So whether it's them donating those services, which is obviously great, and any kind of donated services is tax deductible because we're a 501c3 charity. However, we can also explore, okay, if they can provide any type of educational discount by adopting or helping out specific local schools, we can start that process. And the timing is perfect because a lot of that type of work has to happen over the summer or winter break, because that's a time when the students are away for the summer. The school has the opportunity to clear out the program with all the tools, the equipment, and things like that. So that's when that work can be done. So us having that conversation now leading up into the summer break is ideal. The next time obviously is the winter types of breaks, but obviously from my understanding, some of this type of work can't be done in the frigid weather we have up here in Chicago. It's more with the temperate weather. So summer is the perfect time, and we'd love to be able to do a number of different projects over that summer break if possible.
Okay, that's good to know. So it sounds like maybe they should reach out to you guys, which we'll give some information at the end of our chat. But before we get there, I mean, okay, so the next, I guess, what's the 3 to 5 year goal or plan? Or I mean, I would also think that even if you are able to coat all of these schools, which would be amazing, and in some amount of time, that you'll have to start back over again and kind of maybe do them in the future, 10 to 20 years down the line. What does the future look like for you guys?
So we've been fortunate to, since 2009, when we began that philanthropic focus, we, through a very generous industry, have been able to provide over $300 million worth of support, which has been greatly appreciated. And kind of what we're in some strategic planning initiatives right now to figure out, like you said, what those next 3 to 5 years is going to be. But I think what our plan is through initiatives like this, it's to try to get out in front of the public to attract more students to these programs, because what we're honestly seeing, and I believe this is the case for a lot of the other technical trades, is that the school administration is constantly reviewing their budgets, and those classes, especially the more costly ones, which are typically more on the technical trade side because of all the tools and equipment that are needed, if they're not filling up their classrooms, they're usually on the first of the chopping block of being closed down. So what we're trying to do is avoid that. And there's a big industry conference in our industry called SEMA, which happens out in Las Vegas every November. And we usually have an instructor roundtable, and sadly, the instructors tell us that they have to root for recessions, because that's when people start to think about going back to school and consider career changes. So by us, hopefully within the next couple of years of trying to slowly change that mindset of the public of this being a viable career path for them, hopefully that will begin a process of it being more accepted as a career path, and then we can help get these students employed within the industry. And help start addressing that aging workforce issue that we've been talking about, as the number of students needed is not currently in the educational pipeline right now. So we need to increase those numbers in order to fulfill the needs that this industry has. And that obviously will be done through investing in the local schools.
Are you seeing, in addition to, the potential, I guess I would say, for helping to change the gap with the number of people who are needed in the industry? Are you seeing other sorts of trends happening for the near future, whether it's for you guys specifically as an association, or maybe even beyond and into the trades or the specific trades that you guys are dealing with?
I think it's been in the news a lot more about the student debt issue, and that the traditional four-year college route is not for everybody. So I think people are having to take a real hard look at, do I go myself to college, or do I send my child to college? Because of, if they don't have a lot of job prospects, and then they're going to be burdened with this mountain of student debt, it is an opportunity, and it's a trend, I think, with a lot of the other technical trades, that it's a good time for this to be brought up because of that issue. Where we're fortunate is that from what we've heard, there aren't other foundations like us in the other technical trades. And we've heard that the collision instructors are sometimes the envy of other instructors, because there's just constant support being sent and delivered to these instructors. and their counterparts are asking, where is this all coming from? And they said, well, there's this foundation out there that tries and works with the industry. And I think hopefully what I would love to see, obviously, is if other groups like us could be formed to rally the industry to come together for those schools, because I think they're hurting like everybody else. But we've been extremely fortunate to be supported by some incredible partners. And what's also important to note is that as a charity, we return 90 cents of every dollar goes back to the schools. So we're very lean in our operations, and that's obviously not difficult when you're only a staff of 4 trying to solve the nationwide issue, but obviously always important to note.
Yeah, I think people do definitely pay attention to that. So that's great to share. And it would, I mean, it would be amazing if each trade, so to speak, had its own advocacy group like what you guys have, and how that, you know, how much more you could do probably as then a kind of across the board as a larger group. I know I've sat in on some meetings at conferences, obviously before last year, where they were kind of trying to look outside the box as far as, well, where can we look for people for our coatings contracting companies? We're not finding them the way that we had been 10 years ago. So maybe we need to start talking to high schoolers. Maybe we need to start talking to middle schoolers, you know.
We've actually heard in some markets, the schools have the students pick their career path in junior high. And I don't know about you, but I did not know what career path I wanted to go in junior high. So to your point, we have to get out in front of the students and parents at the earlier age. And some of the things that we're doing, again, not having a huge marketing or advertising budget, but on the employment side, one of the areas that we focus on, we've actually been starting to partner with some of the dealership associations around the country and holding our career fair events on the auto show floors. So in addition to obviously the main purpose of connecting the students with companies that are looking to hire in that markets, it allows us to get out in front of the parents and the general public who are visiting the auto show. So it kind of gives them a first see, a kind of, you know, we see them asking questions, you know, what's going on over here, what's going on in some markets. And I always tell the story, but at the Denver Auto Show back in 2019, I think, obviously that was the last time I think we were able to get together. I literally saw parents pushing their kids into the career fair, say, get out of my basement, get a job. These people are here to hire you, go talk to them. So things like that, I'd love to see us be more, you know, especially around the holidays, whenever we see those PSAs for different types of charities and things like that. I think that we have to have a presence there just to be getting out in front of the parents. And again, I think we have an untapped market for any car enthusiast that might be out there. So it doesn't have to be industry specific, but anyone who appreciates cars, obviously, I think is someone that might be interested in supporting us because they believe they need to bring back, you know, auto body shops to the high school programs and things like that. So lots of good stuff and, you know, potential out there for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential, and at least to show it as an option, right? It doesn't have to be, nothing is going to be one answer for everyone. So there just have to be options out there. You know, it's interesting because I'm not sure if you have the list in front of you, but I was just thinking because a friend of mine, for example, has a brother who was on the West Coast who wanted to go into cosmetology, but they didn't have like the Votech centers like we do on the East Coast, and maybe you have them up there too in the North. So are they just at the regular, so to speak, schools, the regular high schools? Is that where I guess my question is, across the country, what types of schools are you finding these programs at?
So there are some in high schools, and to make a little bit of a clarification, we are specific to the collision repair industry, which is separate from the auto service industry. So what you will typically find is schools that have a auto service or mechanical program. That's not the same as what we focus on, but typically it's, you know, you'll find them at a local high school. But there are a lot of schools, and again, with this emergence of a more kind of a welcoming of the technical trades, you'll see a lot more technical schools or community colleges that have these types of programs. We're trying to help make sure that the high school programs stick around because they're under more scrutiny when it comes to cost than so the community colleges. So they need more kind of support sometimes than in some of the other schools. But again, there's roughly about 1,000 different programs. And that's another opportunity. If anyone interested can reach out to us, we can help provide them with you know, if they're in one market, we can do a 3 to 4 to 5 hour radius around where they're at or where they kind of cover to kind of explore where those programs are at. You know, each school is in kind of a different situation. So we can kind of go down that path to find out where we can kind of match up some efforts to help out those programs.
Okay. That sounds great. Yeah. I mean, there has to be a huge variety of size and need and what have you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So last year was obviously a unique year, to say the least, and it's not necessarily gone, but you know, I'd like to take an opportunity, if you don't mind, to like maybe focus on a silver lining or opportunities or some maybe challenges that you were able to overcome, and not necessarily personally, but you guys as an association. Do you, anything
Sure.
that you can share?
Absolutely. So in the way I think, I'm always trying to think outside the box when it comes to, like you said, trying to find a silver lining in any situation. So yeah, it was one different for me to, traveling was obviously halted, being out in front of the industry at conference and events, that obviously was stopped. So what that allowed us to do is, try to just get creative on how do you fundraise while also being respectful of the different situation people were going through with their businesses. So working through some of our industry partnerships, we were able to do things like through our friends at companies called Sturgill Konai. They produce commercial lift for larger vehicles to kind of boost them up to be able to do work on them. Their equipment is in Jay Leno's garage. I reached out to my contact there and said, I can see in your LinkedIn picture, you are standing next to Jay Leno. Might you be willing to introduce us and see if he might want to get involved? And they were more than happy to help out. And Jay Leno actually auctioned off a private tour of his garage for our charity. So that was obviously great. Another company and a longstanding partner of ours, 3M, through their contact with Chip Foose, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but he's a well-known car rebuilder based out on the East Coast. I'm sorry, on the West Coast in California. They did something similar where Chip Foose auctioned off a meet and greet at his facility. So it's those types of things where you just have to get creative. It also allowed us to expand our fundraising to, like I was saying before, the general public. So you didn't have to be someone in the industry to want to be inside Jay Leno's garage seeing his vehicles. So it was that type of thing that we, try to get creative with. Our annual golf fundraiser, that's usually in person during the summer. We turned it into a virtual golf fundraiser. So the company Top Golf, which I'm sure you might be familiar with, they have a online golfing game, which is very realistic. But instead of us doing a physical one, we actually had golfers from nearly every state in the country and some Canadian golfers participate. So you just have to get creative. Just because of the pandemic does not mean that the instructors had less need for support. So it's about trying to do what we can to get creative to help out them. So we plan on definitely continuing that into this year, knowing that we hope to get back to normal, by the summer / into the next school year. But it's that kind of out of the box thinking and fundraising that we're going to have to, I think, continue to help make a difference.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is it's hard to remember that. I mean, I know we're all in it together, right? But so are these companies. Like Topgolf is a perfect example of, well, they've also had to kind of think outside the box. So if we can think outside the box and they align, then what a great kind of, marriage that is. That's
Exactly.
great. How exciting.
Yep. Yeah, it's not been this year, as you can imagine, for any technical trade, for what these instructors have gone through. Trying to teach a hands-on skill via Zoom is not an easy thing to do. So these instructors are just as anxious, I think, as the rest of us are to get back to that normal, style of teaching. And unfortunately, a lot more programs are being told that they're basically being kind of red flagged, where if they don't get more students, then their program's going to be cut because of budgets. So now more than ever is that support needed and welcomed by the instructors.
Yeah, just getting the word out and helping to do things like this, I think would be great. So we're happy to help you guys out, and hopefully there'll be a really great connection, or connections plural, with our listeners and the greater coatings world too. A lot of abilities to overlap there. I'm trying not to use the word synergy because I feel like that's just so 2020.
We're done with that year.
We are. Let's keep that one in the past. Well, before I ask my quick rapid fire questions, is there anything else that you want to mention that I did not get a chance to ask you about today?
No, one, and you actually just commented on this. Thank you for helping to get the word out. Obviously, any opportunity where we can kind of work with somebody or organization or whomever to help get the word about what we do. Like I said, we don't have we try to make sure as much support as possible goes to the schools. So not having that, large marketing / advertising budget, opportunities like this are huge for us, just to help spread the word, because you never know where there might be a connection made. And obviously, if any of your listeners have celebrity contacts or connections, or have maybe a connection to something that might be something that we can auction off, help fundraise, obviously that's great. But more than welcome to entertain any outreach from your listeners and people that are in that field, to start exploring those opportunities with schools that are in the markets.
Yeah, that would be great. And we can kind of help facilitate with them finding maybe those schools in their area. So I think this maybe would be a good time for you to give, if people do want to reach out to you and follow up and get some more information, how should they go ahead and do that?
Sure. So our website is the collisioneducationfoundation.org, and you'll see our contact information through there. If they can or want, they can follow us. We're on social media, Facebook, find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. But again, love to contact or connect with those people. And again, just start that conversation would be a great starting point.
Okay, great. Before we let you go, I'm going to make you do this rapid fire round. It's just a fun way to get to know our interviewees. So,
Sure.
So let's start with, who would you say is your hero or mentor?
Hero or mentor? So a slight answer to that question, but a little bit different. There's a phrase that's by Margaret Mead that I always love to use inside presentations, but it's, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I think it's a great kind of philosophy in terms of what can be done by those that care. So it's, again, just a kind of a quote that I've always liked and used. And not sure if that's really like a hero or mentor answer, but it's, again, just a little great philosophy in terms of what can be done by, people that actually care.
Yeah, I think that's great. Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Biggest pet peeve. So in our industry, sometimes there's always, I'm in a unique position because within our charity, I'm trying to fulfill a business need. And sometimes the conversation is, people will be the first to complain about the fact that, there's the aging workforce, and that there needs to be a better quality student coming out of the school. And my question is, okay, so what have you done to get involved with your local school? And sometimes the answer is, well, I don't have time for that. I got to run my business. So it then allows for a conversation of, okay, well, we could either work together to change what's coming out of your local school, or if we don't, that complaint will still be around for the next 5 to 10 years. So people that like to actually take action as opposed to just complain, it always opens up an opportunity for conversation and get that relationship going.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, and this is actually, I feel like, perfect now that I know your background as far as the journalism and the education that you've had. What media are you into right now? So whether it's a TV, podcast, movie, book, what have you?
A little bit of all of the above. I loved to write when I was younger. I wrote for the school newspaper. I actually had one of my articles published in an MIT professor's college textbook, which was pretty cool. These days, it's more, especially when I was traveling, which seems so long ago, it was listening to podcasts. I'm a big movie person, and I'm always challenging someone to try to, be better than me when it comes to movie quotes or being able to kind of name a movie in terms of movie trivia. And especially during these days, you're kind of stuck with that being stuck at home. So very frequent user of Netflix and Amazon Prime movies and Apple TV and all that kind of stuff. And always trying to keep up on the latest series that you hear about that are popular. So kind of a little bit of all the above.
Any favorites that you want to share?
Just recently, so what was good that I did not expect was The Grand, which was on, I believe that's Netflix, but that was entertaining. Just recently watched I Care a Lot, which was kind of a thriller type of series. And there's a bunch of movies that are getting released on streaming services, and there's a bunch coming out this year that look forward to, like whether it's action flicks or something like that, look forward to seeing. And going to the movies was one of my biggest hobbies when we could actually do it. So I look forward to that coming back. But yeah, hopefully we're back there sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that, as well as all the information about the Collision Repair Education Foundation with our listeners, with me, of course, and then also, hopefully with anyone who might be interested and would reach out to you. So thanks again for joining us. I'm Stephanie Chiswick, Editor-in-Chief of CoatingsPro Magazine. And again, this was Brandon Eckenrode, Director of Development, Collision Repair Education Foundation. Thanks so much. And as always, happy coding.